while this intro is playing. All right, everybody, welcome to Session 0 of Hyperion. So Hyperion is going to pick up where I-13 left off, and we've only actually got one returning crew person, which we'll get to in just a second, and we have 3 new characters. But here in Session 0, we've got some stuff to talk about before we actually get playing. So does everybody have the outline that I shared before, the one that was on Notion?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in front of me because I'm using my phone.
Oh, okay. That's really not a big deal anyway. I can just I'll go through it and we can talk about it. If you don't have it in front of you, it's really not a big deal. So the first thing we're going to be doing, maybe I'll jump out of order a little bit, is we're going to talk about settings. So the game is going to be set in 2380. So that's just after the end of Nemesis, maybe like a few months. I think that Nemesis was like at 2379. So we're going to take just after that movie, but before Hobus. But the Romulans actually won't come into play at all. But just if it does come up in question, that's where we are in timeline. We are not going to touch anything that happened to Picard. Not even going to talk about anything to do with synths. We're just going to gloss right over it. But yeah, you guys are on a fresh new Luna-class ship launching from Starbase 185, which I checked the map is like the furthest most ship out on the frontier, or base on the frontier. Like there's nothing else, at least in that quadrant from Starbase 185. It's all empty space. So before we get started playing, we're just going to go through a few parts. I'd like to hear from everybody, and I'm going to pick someone at random. I'm going to pick you, Talek. What are you excited about in the Delta Quadrant?
I feel like Talek is excited for hopefully a little bit more of a peaceful journey. Like, it's not as high stress, although obviously it will be high stress due to the nature of playing a tabletop game. But that's what he's looking forward to, at least. So hopefully he will not have his dreams crushed too hard. Just a little bit.
I can't promise that, but he at least might think it's going to be a little low stress. I think it's 4 years after the Dominion War, and Starfleet's recovering from all of that. So this will be one of the first 5-year missions that will be going out in a really long time. That's cool. Talek is looking for something a little low speed. Talek is actually the only character, like I was mentioning before, he's coming back from I-13. The rest of everyone else is going to be brand new. So, Brad, let's talk about what either you personally or what Mr. Allen might be looking for in the Delta Quadrant.
I, personally, just want to meet the Kazon Nistrum so I can turn on you all. Pull a Seska.
It wouldn't be one of my games if I didn't at least have one mutiny, so I'll see about that.
My character, David Allen, he grew up in a family who has a long tradition in Starfleet. But his father's only regret about his time in the service was not serving on a deep space exploration mission. So this is him kind of living up to his father's dream.
And if
when he heard about... Sorry.
Go ahead, it's okay.
So when he heard about this mission, he jumped at the chance to apply.
Is he fairly young?
He's probably been in Starfleet for about 5 years, so he's not a rookie. He's definitely an experienced officer. Um, but this would probably be his first command assignment.
So he might have skipped the Dominion War entirely, because I think that would have ended about 4 years ago.
In my head, yes, definitely. He didn't see action in that, although he's been in several situations, but nothing that serious, nothing that dire.
And if I remember correctly, towards the end, it was turning around into their favor anyway. So even if he was serving, it might have been not so bad.
Yeah, but I think he was like kind of like the Enterprise in the Dominion War. He was stationed to a ship that was on the other side of the galaxy, not the galaxy, the quadrant.
So he was having those parties on his ship and all that, like they were doing.
Yeah.
And Lovecraftian, about you or Ash, what are you interested in on the Delta Quadrant?
Well, Ash is interested in the opportunity afforded to her by a 5-year mission. These 5-year exploratory missions make or break careers, and oftentimes everyone who embarks on one gets a promotion. So she's looking for a captaincy, hopefully by the end of this tour of duty, as basically her first as a first officer. And in terms of the player, I'm kind of interested in seeing how the Delta Quadrant has evolved since Voyager's return. And given like the swath of destruction that they left in their wake, I guess I'm looking forward to cleaning up some of their mess.
And we're certainly going to cover that. One of the my first inclination in a game like this is to make a map and show you guys progressing through it, but I think I'm gonna try to steer away from that. And what I want this one campaign to cover is pretty much that entire 5-year mission. So we might actually jump through time pretty quickly. And the idea is that you guys will have a QSD to help you cover that distance very quickly, and then other shortcuts and stuff to get through it. But the goal of the game is to not maroon you guys and have you traveling back home, but then to actually have you want to be out there, which I think would drive decisions a little differently than in some other games, and then also in Voyager. But ELH, tell us a little bit about Nyx and also what you and Nyx would like from the Delta Quadrant.
So, personally, it's one of those things where I always like games that go out and touch the quote unquote lost era type things. Obviously, there is the original lost era between TOS and TNG, but the sort of period between Nemesis, Voyager, Next Generation, DS9, and what happens in Star Trek Online, again, not touching on Picard, we again have sort of a disconnect where there's a period of 20, 30, maybe even 40 years where we don't know what's happening in the Star Trek universe. And I feel like that gives us a good opportunity to explore a lot of interesting storylines that we might not get in other eras. Um, as far as Captain Nyx is concerned, she is more or less wanting to make sure that her crew is returning to the ideals of Starfleet. And sort of in that post Dominion War era, she feels that's extremely important because Starfleet went through such a tumultuous time. I think that's a word in the Dominion War. And it's one of those things where maybe it's part of Starfleet rediscovering the identity through these 5-year missions.
What role did Nyx play in the Dominion War?
She was starbased, ironically enough, on Starbase 621, also known as Bucket Station. Probably saw some actual action and potentially even saw some of the people from the Caliburn. I forget if you've posted the Caliburn, but
I didn't record most of that, so that will just live on in our memories and also in infamy.
fair enough.
Well, cool. if you don't mind continuing ELH2, what's your least and favorite parts of Voyager the show?
So I'm sort of an odd duck in that I actually really liked what they did with the Borg in Voyager, which I know is odd to hear. And the reasoning isn't just because Jerry Ryan looks very good in her outfit, because everybody can agree on that. Jokes aside, though, I like the fact that they took the Borg from a sort of humanistic enemy that we see in TNG, and they twisted it into, yeah, sort of a standard zombie sort of thing, but they gave depth to the Borg, or at least I thought they gave depth to the Borg. What I didn't like about Voyager was how literally bipolar Janeway was written. It literally like her command style and her values seemed to change with every single new writer, and that made for, again, a very bipolar character. Where one mission she's like, I can't do that prime directive, and the next she's literally blowing photon torpedoes out of the water, kind of a thing. But no, I mean, I liked most of Voyager, except of course for the lizard episode. The only thing I would say further is I kind of wish Tuvix had stuck around.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I have to agree with Tuvix.
Boo!
Tuvix was great. Brad, we must agree that Tuvix was great.
Boo!
Look, Neelix died. There is no way that anything surrounding that situation could be bad.
This is also very true. So, Brad, since you have lots of opinions here about Tuvix, what are your least and favorite parts of Voyager?
If you had asked me this like 10 years ago, I'd probably have a lot of complaints. But I've come around on Voyager quite a bit. So I actually, outside of that lizard episode, and yeah, some of the first season's a bit hit or miss, but I actually kind of like it. I like the idea of them being stranded out there without a lot of support, having to find allies, having to find friends. Really plays into the monster of the week idea. I can't really say there's too much I disliked.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, my inclination, just by the way I've run things in the past, is to make a game where I'm like tracking number of photon torpedoes and number of shuttles, but I'm going to really try to steer away from that and specifically not do that, because I think that will just bring a level of tension and like paperwork tracking that just wouldn't be very fun.
I just always assumed they found a way to make more.
Yeah, they got replicators. They could work it out. So, Nick, what do you think about Voyager?
I will say that when I watched Voyager, I didn't watch the whole thing in order, straight through, all at once. So, sorry, everybody. I'm looking forward to some surprises. What I really liked, though, was not necessarily having too much backup. You sort of had to be really scrappy on your own in Voyager, and I think that's probably something that we'll get into on our own as well. So I think that'll be fun and a little bit different.
That is also something I'm looking forward to in the other game, the Hope game. They regularly call back home to like Starfleet, and they're asking questions and asking for support. And as a GM, that sometimes makes it more difficult to throw challenges at them, because I know they always have that lifeline, but you guys really won't have that lifeline here. You'll kind of be off on your own. Ash, did I ask you about Voyager?
You did not, no. So with respect to my favorite and least favorite aspects of Voyager, I would say that it would be potential and premise as my favorite parts of it, and squandered potential as my least favorite aspect. I enjoyed the prospect of engaging with these two crews that had radically diverse opinions, a group of people who were not from Starfleet, and the way in which those two crews would have to be integrated. Likewise, I actually enjoyed, as a television show, the premise of it being like contemporary Battlestar Galactica, where you actually suffer the consequences of each encounter and engagement, and that carries over, so that the ship that arrives back home, ostensibly, is going to be radically different from the one that started out. Unfortunately, Voyager didn't carry forward any of that initial potential. It didn't take advantage, I think, of uniqueness of its setting, and instead carried on a more formulaic approach akin to that of TNG. And while TNG worked for the context of that series, the difference in sort of context and setting, and also the fact that it felt like many of the scripts were either retreads or, I suppose, cast-offs or leftovers from TNG, hurt the series for me. I did love the characters, I will say, except for Janeway, because she was kind of schizophrenic and the writers didn't know what to do with her or how to represent her in a rational fashion, as ELH pointed out. But I think Tom Paris was a great character, 7 of 9. Unfortunately, she suffered from, well, kind of repetitive storytelling, learning the same lessons over. However, I like the idea of character growth, how the more intimate setting and the contracted setting that Nick mentioned offered opportunities for character growth and development that we didn't really see necessarily in other series. And that would be something I'd probably want to highlight. And I think that Star Trek Adventures as a system does. But
Well, that's a good segue into our next question, and anybody can chime in. We've all played lots of STA. What would you guys want to do differently here? Or what would you like this game to be?
Well, what occurs to me is that there hasn't really been, and this is probably very minor, but there hasn't really been, to my knowledge, a series, podcast, game, whatever, that really focuses on the aspect of the 5-year mission in a way that doesn't trivialize it. And I guess what I'm meaning by that is that we always see episodic play, we always see um maybe even extended dramas in the case of the Hope. But what we don't see is the effects of a 5-year mission on both crew and Starfleet at large. There was a little bit of that with Ophion carrying into Fenrir, but it's not to the point where you're literally shaping the future. Um, at least not to the degree a 5-year mission would. So I guess I'm looking for more a meaningful development, sort of multiple arcs spanning multiple species, encounters, etc., but also not losing sight of that episodic feel.
That's interesting. With you guys out there, like in isolation, how would you expect it to alter what's happening back home?
Well, it's one of those things where even if we are, out in the boondocks, we're still going to encounter new life, new civilizations. We're still going to find, new things to put on a star chart. And it could simply be that, maybe we find some anomaly that Starfleet goes, hey, yeah, we want to check this out further. And then they send out a few ships. And then the next thing you know, there's a starbase park next to it.
Yeah, that would be cool. Just showing like the expansion coming behind you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What about anybody else?
I was just going to add on to that, if I might. We're also essentially going to be making first contact with innumerable races or trying to establish diplomatic relations with species perhaps that Voyager has encountered, and I guess opened up a kind of diplomatic dialogue with them that we could then build on with respect to the entire Federation. So I see what ELH is saying with regard to the lasting consequences of this kind of mission when we're looking at both a kind of expansionist policy wherein we're having colonies and new waves of exploration sort of following behind us, and also the kinds of relationships that can be developed politically with the races that we encounter, how that can actually have a lasting impact on the Federation as a whole.
And I mentioned before that I'm not going to try to isolate you. Well, it's kind of built in isolation already, but I'm not going to strain you guys out in a portion of space and your mission is to come home. I specifically want you guys to be going out there, wanting to be out there, because I think if you want to be out there, you take a very different path. It's like if you encounter someone that could be hostile, if you want to be out there, you'll probably try to contact them. If you are trying to get home, you avoid them. And that's kind of the reason for the idea of like the 5-year mission, that you guys are seeking this sort of stuff. You're not necessarily running from it. So Nick or Brad, what do you guys think? What are you looking for in the next STA game?
I would like to see more scenarios that involve characters that turn into witches.
I can do that. I have
That's
lots of that
very
planned.
specific.
Yeah, I feel like someone's a little bit resentful about a certain cat.
Oh, I'm just a big fan of terrible episodes of the original series.
Fair enough.
I am also a big fan of the original series, so you can expect perhaps at least one episode with a giant green hand. I think that would be appropriate.
Yes. Maybe we'll meet Adonis again.
I don't know. Even that episode was pretty cringeworthy. Even being generous.
Oh yeah, terrible. Maybe someone can take my brain to run their planet.
Or what about the one that was like the Halloween episode with the giant cat, which is obviously just them zoomed in on a cat in a box?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think it's called Cat's Paw, right?
Yeah, cat's paw. That's it. It's special. It's special television.
That's what
Yeah,
makes it
what?
fun.
Yeah, definitely. Like seeing that episode as a kid and then watching it again as an adult, two completely different experiences.
So the giant cat planet. We'll find that one.
Also, Arena
Oh.
Planet, certainly.
Yes.
The arena planet.
Wait,
yes.
Voyager did that too.
Yes. That's actually there are stats for that, or at least a more than one paragraph in the Delta Quadrant book. Yeah, Nick, did you have anything that you were looking for here?
I'm excited to see what we have planned with the supporting characters. I think it's going to be fun. Not that I have my stuff prepared yet, but sorry. We'll get into that as it comes up, and I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, and we can even get to that before we talk about the main characters if you'd like, if you guys want to. So my idea with the supporting characters is generally, we throw up a character when you want to like put them on an away team, and they're generally kind of flat because otherwise they're in the background and we forget about them because the main characters are so much more interesting. Well, I had an idea here. What we could do is use backstory cards, which is really just randomly picked story prompts to start fleshing out just a few lines of a backstory of those supporting characters. And then that way, when they do come up, we have an interesting part about them or an interesting hook. Or if that guy's sitting in the corner of the bridge, it could be like, well, that guy knows a terrible secret of someone, or, something like that. And the idea, because it's random, is you guys don't have to think too much about it. You just save the creativity for the main characters. This is just a fun way to get started. But I was thinking together we could everyone make one supporting character, and then at least we'd have one on deck for whenever that comes up. Sound good?
I like the
Yeah.
sound of that.
Yep.
Sweet. Who would like to go first?
I volunteer Lovecraft.
Oh my no. I was actually going to say, perhaps with the background cards, just to clarify, it's creating some kind of connection between the supporting character and one of the main characters.
Sometimes it creates a connection between the character and everyone, or the character and like an event. It's there's quite a bit that it covers. It also will sometimes just define an adversary that they had. So I've got 48 of them. They're on a PDF, so you guys just have to trust me when you do the roll that I'm reading the right thing. But I'll read it out, whatever the thing is. And also, for some of them that have to do with relationships, you'll roll like 1d50, and I'll tell you the card. But sometimes you'll also have to pick a person that it also relates to, which the way we'll do that is just going down the list in Roll20. I'll have you guys roll a d10 and we'll say that it's related to that particular person. But if that comes up, we'll worry about it then.
So my thought, sorry, go ahead.
And the idea is this is sort of just improvising here at the moment. You don't have to think too much about it. Like the example I gave in chat, if one of the cards said something like there was an event in your past that you shared with another player and you were ashamed about, what is it? And that's where I came with the story about the illicit affair during the Dominion War. And then what the die rolls to pick the person would have done would have picked Nyx or someone else. And that would have been the story that, the two players would have worked on to come together with for the supporting character.
So my thought there would be, it sounds like a great idea, and I'm really excited to be part of it. I like this plan. I'm happy to be part of it. But maybe we should introduce the new main characters before we do that, so that we can have a better understanding of how those characters react and have something to build off of with the other player.
Yeah, that. Now that you said it, that makes a lot more sense. Let's do that. So we've kind of covered. Let's maybe start with Telek, because Telek is the only returning character, and we've talked a little bit about Telek. I think the thing that is missing Telek is in that past 4 or 5 years after the I-13. So we've established the I-13 was so severely damaged after that last mission that she was kind of dry docked and probably never came out. So Telek was probably reassigned somewhere. What did Telek? What was he up to?
I think for a while, Telek probably went into teaching for a bit, because there aren't necessarily an excess of ships that you can just get reassigned to towards the end of a war. So I think he spent a couple years teaching and then wanted to actually get out there again. So he found a new ship that he could get transferred to, which is how he ended up on the Hyperion.
That makes sense. And Telek has a expertise in power systems, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. And he's written a couple papers on like power systems improvements and things like that. So he could have been teaching like theoretical things about power systems and like how to improve them to new engineers that would end up getting sent out in this new crop of missions.
And the Hyperion is going to have a quantum slipstream drive. She's not the first one. She's just like one of the first few. So Telek might also be interested in that because it's new technology and it's really shiny.
Oh, definitely. That's going to be a fun thing.
So moving on, we've learned a little bit about Captain Nyx already. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, ELH?
Yeah, this is as good a time as any. So, the interesting thing about Nyx is she is a member of an entirely new species that I cooked up, simply because I'm of the philosophy that every single crew, especially in an STA game, needs sort of an unknown or a new alien type character. So Nyx is from the species known as the Cephalus. And the Cephalus are essentially lamias, half man, half snake kind of thing. And really, what I would highlight about them is not so much their physical characteristics, but their sort of societal ones. Unlike sort of, I guess, humanity as an example, in humanity, we put a lot of importance on politicians and leaders and not so much the science. Well, in Cephalus society, that's the opposite, where those that do science, those that do engineering, those that do medicine, they are the elite of the society, whereas the politicians, the managers, those are lower quote unquote positions in society. So my goal with Nyx is to sort of bring that feel where she is reluctantly captain, which is a new sort of feel for me because all my captains up to this point have been very confident in the role. But this is my goal at the end is to sort of communicate that unwilling captain. But as the saying goes, those that sort of are against being a captain to begin with usually end up being the best captains. But we'll see what happens.
And is Nyx's species the Cephalans? I'm going to get it wrong.
It's all right.
Are they members of the Federation?
I would like to say that they are actually. They were initially encountered by Kirk during the 5-year mission. If I read correctly, this is somewhere between the Satan episode of the animated series and what was the other one? I honestly forget the other animated series, but it's somewhere between animated series episodes where I put them being encountered for the first time. But yeah, they've been a Federation member for quite a long while.
Okay. And is this Nyx's first command?
Yes, this is her first true command. She has been chief science officer before, chief engineer before, or let me back that up. Not chief scientist. She has been helm in engineering, but it's one of those things where, again, coming from a society that doesn't put importance on leading. It's one of those things where she's just to sort of pick that up because in Starfleet, I don't want to say get promoted to incompetency like you would in real life, but there is sort of the higher you go, the less physical hands-on work you do. So I think there's definitely an element where Nyx wants to get in and really quote unquote get their hands dirty again, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Does Nyx have any Cobra qualities in their appearance?
Yes, actually. It is something that I found was not just a visually appealing thing, but maybe a societal thing. You know how Bajorans have those earrings that they wear, which, 9 times out of 10, the commanding officers don't have a problem with. Since she is the commanding officer, though, I figured she probably has sort of an ornamental hood that she wears that sort of resembles like a cobra's hood. But other than that, snake body, lower half. Her coloring is a little bit different. Somewhere between like a shade of purple and a shade of not white, but maybe a mauve, if that makes any sense. But she's very striking. You would be able to pick her out of a room very easily. But in general, I would say that when it comes to Cobra qualities, the other thing I would highlight is she does have the acid glands talent, which does allow her to, in spitting Cobra fashion, spit acid if need be.
Yikes. Well, I'll certainly be interested in hearing more about her time, especially before she was captain, back when she was a Cobra commander.
Oh, oh, you're beautiful. I love you.
And the jokes are going to keep coming. You signed up for this.
I did.
And in that fashion, why don't you tell us a little bit about Commander Ash, Matthew?
Okay, Commander Ash looks like a standard Vulcan. However, she has the dark eyes of a Betazoid. So she is a half Betazoid, half Vulcan. And because her father, who went through the pond far due to a kind of electromagnetic disturbance on an away mission, and his life had to be saved by a civilian, he didn't want her, and in fact died before she was born. So she was raised on Beta Z by her mother, who really knew nothing about raising a Vulcan, and as a result, uh, used her telepathic powers to be in constant contact and monitor the child as she grew up continually. So this has left her with something of a complex regarding her mother, and also um, it's left her with this deep desire to assert herself in the world. So as a character, she is a bit like a cross between Shelby, Commander Shelby from Best of Both Worlds, and let's say a Tom Paris. So her career has been marked by spectacular acts of daring and cunning, and she has always been hungry for that captaincy, much like Shelby. But she's also a bit reckless, and I viewed her as kind of like the Spock to Captain Nix's Kirk, but almost in reverse. In that, whereas Captain Nix is reluctant and views sort of scientific inquiry and the like as the ultimate aspect of the Starfleet officer or of a captain. Um, Commander Ash, although she is in the sciences field and has expertise in that, is sort of trying to go in the other direction. And so I thought that they might be able to play off each other because of their radically different temperament in that way that Kirk and Spock did.
And she has, I was just reading through your backstory, she has a pretty intense moment on the, or at the end of the Dominion War with that Ferengi ship. Is that public knowledge, or is that something that people will find out later?
That would be public knowledge in terms of her background and the record that she has.
Does
So
she
go ahead.
Does she have any kind of regrets on that?
No, she thinks that she did everything that she had to, and basically what happened was that she was forced to take command of her ship, even though she was the second officer, a science officer, and because the ship was ambushed by a Ferengi marauder, and she used various different sort of astrological anomalies, the Nova class's vessel's ability to land on planets and the like, to engage in this long, drawn-out game of cat and mouse with the Ferengi Marauder until she was finally able to maneuver it into a position such that she could use basically scientific chicanery and an astrological phenomenon to destroy it outright.
I was just looking through your values. They're all really, really good. It's funny, she strikes me as like the anti-Saval.
Kind of, yes. And one thing that will come out, and that I think should be mentioned at least, is that she does not particularly care for her Vulcan heritage, and she probably has a few issues with Vulcans as a whole. So sorry, Talek.
But we will deal with Saval and Idru actually one of the first scenes, just a brief few minutes just covering them up and closing them out, because I know we left that open the last time with I-13, just showing where those two characters would have ended up over time. But before we go on to your character, Brad, let's talk about what actually happened to Captain Tron.
I think his injuries were serious enough that he was immediately taken away from the front lines, and he's probably spent several years in rehab attempting to recover. But I like to be a positive person, so I think he's fully recovered and probably gone back to some sort of administration role at Starfleet Command. He kind of went back to the role he had before he took command of the ship.
Because I think after the Dominion War, there's really no conflict for Starfleet for a long time. I think it's relatively an era of peace, even though Picard kind of tears that down a little bit. I'd say he's probably going to have a pretty relaxed rest of his career after the war.
Yeah, and I think that he kind of goes into semi-retirement.
And you've told us a little bit about Lieutenant Allen already. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
He is the security officer, the tactical officer. I'm not sure exactly what his title is. But he's not this brash, headstrong. He will put his life on the line if he has to. But he's more carefree, easygoing until the firing starts. He's very skilled at what he does. But he doesn't want to have, he's perfectly fine if during the 5-year mission he never has to press the fire button on the Hyperion's control pad.
That was actually going to be something I brought up, in that there are plenty of armed ships in Starfleet, especially after the Dominion War. Starfleet kicked out a bunch of them. And a Luna class, while it's not the weakest ship in Starfleet, it's certainly not the strongest. How would someone that might have been in the academy while the war was going on, how would he feel about being on one of the weaker ships tactically?
He went into the security operations and security just because there was a need for that in when he attended the academy. They just needed more skilled security officers because of the war. But that's not what he wants to do. He wants to be an explorer. And if his skills as a security officer and as a tactical officer gets him into a position where he can explore the universe and find new civilizations and new life forms and all that stuff, he's perfectly happy.
And you're missing one value. Did you want to talk about what that could be?
I have no idea yet.
What you've got so far is fortune favors the bold. Let's see what's out there and never leave a crew member behind. And a salvo of torpedoes can solve almost any problem.
I took that one mainly because I took the talent. Just felt like it should go together. But I was hoping maybe to develop that last one maybe in play.
Yeah, you could do that. We could steal from the character creation and play too. Yeah, whenever you'd like to use it, we could do that. I would also like you to think about potentially making that value a little more negative and not intrinsically neutral or positive. And the reason being, as I've said it before, but I'll just say it especially for the stream and the recording, is like I think the negative values give you another option for getting determination. You know, if you have all positive values, sometimes you'll get in a situation where you've already used your determination and you don't have anything you can challenge to get another one, but a negative value gives you another option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, but I just couldn't come up with anything in the moment. And I think I would like to have it be something specific.
It can almost be a character flaw, and yeah, that might come up as you're playing him, something that makes sense.
So,
and it could be,
yeah, maybe if we have an encounter with like the Borg and it doesn't go perfectly well for us, maybe it could be something like that. Like he's terrified of the Borg or something like that.
Or the giant cat, maybe he's just allergic or something.
Who could be afraid of that?
If I could just say one thing, based on what has just been said regarding values, one of the things we didn't talk about was what are your favorite parts of the STA system? And I think that what you just articulated, GM Josh, is exactly that. That one of the things I'd love to see and I like about the system is that values can be used by both players and the GM. So that if there is some kind of, I would hope that you might be able to find ways to force us to play out our values, to offer us that determination for possible negative complications as a result of our negative values. Because I like that as a kind of spur to role playing, and I think it adds something organic and unique to this system, the whole value system.
Oh, don't worry, he's very good at it.
Okay.
I'd even kicked around the idea of possibly not giving you guys a point of determination to start with, and that you have to earn your determination by using your values, but that feels a little harsh, and I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet.
Yeah, that sounds mean.
But actually, that brings up, I know this is a segue, but GM Josh, have you looked at the new reputation rules that were outlined in the Klingon book?
I have not picked it up yet. Are they good?
I'm still testing them out with Fenrir. There's still the same sort of problem that was highlighted where you can do everything right on a mission and still not get positive influence. But the reason I bring it up is because the new reputation rules are applicable in two ways. One is you can actually earn more points of determination by getting a certain number of successes. So you could actually start a mission with 2 or maybe even 3 determination ready to go. The other, if I read correctly, was you can use your sort of positive reputation as sort of a thing to roll against in social situations. So I don't know how that would work in a 5-year mission style campaign, but it might be something we explore if everybody's on board with trying it out. Just a thought.
I'll have to get my hands on that and give it a read. That sounds interesting. Yeah, it does bring up the point that we do need some kind of progression if I'm going to have you guys. I mean, it'll just be one campaign, so it's not like you'll have to live with these characters any longer than you normally would, but the characters will grow, at least they should grow quickly. You know, every few mission or two, could even cover several months. So a progression system would make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, I think I would like to say as a GM, and ELH certainly knows this, in Star Trek, I typically try to make it, when I'm planning a mission, I usually try to start with the Star Trek moral issue and then plan from there. Like, I'll usually go into it thinking, well, what can I make my players stop and really worry about? And that's what I build on. Like in the Hope campaign, the theme of the Hope campaign is that pretty much this entire season for them has been about making choices on who lives and who dies. And, you know, how does that factor into play, especially because it's a doctor-driven or medically driven campaign? Like, how do they decide when a civilization lives and a civilization dies? For you guys, I'm still kicking around what that theme is going to be for you. I think it's probably going to be more along the line of what can you influence and how do you affect the places that you're going? How do you make contact in a way that's not aggressive and destructive? But I'm still kicking that around. Sorry, Talek, sorry, Nick, if you're hoping Talek was going to have a stress-free voyage.
No, he's hoping he has a stress-free voyage. What am I supposed to do if I don't have artificial stress to deal with real stress with?
He's going to have artificial stress. That's kind of my game. That's my bad.
Beautiful. We don't want the same things.
So,
I
yeah.
want what you want.
So with that, you guys want to make some supporting characters?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It sounds like we have a need for a science officer for away team purposes. Is that correct?
Well, we have Ash.
So is Ash's secondary sort of discipline, is it science or
Primary, so primarily a science officer, but secondary command.
okay. All right. So let's see. You're science, Talek is engineering.
You do need a pilot, and I would recommend a medic. It'll come out and play when we get started. That you guys have a very unique doctor that cannot go on away team missions.
We have Andy Dick, the EMH Mark II.
No, you have better than that. At least I think it's better.
Oh God. Am I gonna have to do the Connery voice? Because I'll do the Connery voice.
You could give Dr. Jarvik the Connery voice if you'd like.
Oh God. Yeah, I could do a pilot. I guess so. I'm rolling a 1d50.
Yeah, let's get started with 1d50.
Okay. Survey says an 18.
So the 18 card is someone, which we'll roll next, suspects you of a shady past. What do they think, and what are you really trying to hide? So if you can roll 1d10 for me.
A 7.
A 7. You rolled yourself.
Nice. I suspect myself. I have schizophrenia.
I'll just pick the next one. Let's say Lieutenant Allen suspects you of something shady. What is it, and what do they think, and what are you actually trying to hide?
So, and again, this is totally improv. My initial thought is that since Alan is security and Alan is, trying to run maybe a tight ship, maybe this character is not showing up to duty on time, and it's becoming more and more evident that they become more and more tired as time progresses. And, maybe there's a suspicion of, oh, maybe their moonlighting is something. Or, maybe they're spending too much time on the holodeck, et cetera, et cetera. When in reality, this character just isn't sleeping well.
And that's
I can get behind that. This is the pilot, the helmsman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a
Just
good
writing
one
it
to
down.
call the point to ELH, is that these backstories don't have to be super dramatic or complicated or, intense. Like they don't have to be Tal Shiar agents or anything like that. They could literally just maybe have a drinking problem or, have some other personal character flaw. It doesn't have to be anything huge.
Yeah, there's a specific, it's not narcolepsy, but it's not as deadly as the one thing that can't, there's a specific disease or disorder where you cannot sleep and you literally go insane. It's not that dramatic, no. I'm just looking for something that's a bit more heavier than narcolepsy, but my medical knowledge is severely lacking in that front. So
it would be kind of funny if there's something about the vibrations in the ship that's keeping this person awake.
yeah, I could see that.
It's a new starship, so maybe it's the lack of vibrations, or it's too smooth of a ride for this person to sleep.
Taking the Corian angle from Mass Effect. Yeah, I could dig that. And then species-wise, I'm just gonna go with a standard human for this guy.
And also, guys, I've got that supporting character generator. If you don't want to do any work and you want to make it all random, I'll drop the link to that in chat.
Yeah, I'll get this gentleman situated as everybody else rolls theirs.
I'm gonna pick. Let's see, Nick. Why don't you go next?
I am going to make our medical officer who can go on away missions and not be stuck on the ship. So first roll 1d50.
Yeah. Number 12 is a character bailed out on you during an event. What awesome thing did they do that surprised you? So if you can roll a d10 for me, we'll figure out who that is. Number 6 is Zach, one of the security officers that we will uncover and play. He's a really giant Cation security officer. What did he bail out? How did he bail out on you, and what was happening?
I want to say that whoever my character was going to be ended up making a pretty major mistake with some of the technology, and his name is Zach.
Yeah,
Yes.
Zach.
Zach ended up fixing it, but through the good old hit the technology until it works method, and managed to fix the tricorder that was malfunctioning. And therefore, whatever this character's name is going to be didn't get in any trouble for breaking the tricorder.
So do they have is it a friendly relationship between Zach and your character?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get to Zach. I had him in mind as just a security officer that I can throw in here and there. So Matthew, why don't you go next?
All right. So I was thinking of a security officer, but if that's filled up by Zach, I can think of something else.
No, you could certainly make your own, and we'll just keep Zach in the background to do other things. Certainly really have a character in the forefront that you like, as opposed to one I just threw together.
So yeah, I think I'll be going for a security department officer.
So number 6 is, this is for a group, so you don't have to roll to pick a character, but you owe a specific group in a big way. Why can't you get out from under this debt or obligation?
That was number 20.
Oh, 20. Sorry.
No problem.
I did not scroll down. Oh, okay. This is a good one. This is an adversarial relationship. You had an ulterior motive at a specific event, and one of the characters found out. What did you offer to keep them quiet, and did they agree to your terms? So you do need to roll here a d10 to see which character was in this experience. Okay. Ooh, that's Commander Telek.
So I had an ulterior motive for doing something. Could you just repeat the?
Yeah, you had an ulterior motive and you have to specify the event, and Commander Telek found out. What did you offer to keep them quiet, and did they agree to your terms?
Okay. I think that my character participated in an initial marksmanship competition, and he was really trying to impress one of the junior lieutenants on board the starbase, and that was what his real intention behind the thing was. So Commander Telek found out about this, and my character was so incredibly neurotic that he didn't want anyone to know about this, and he started running off into this sort of panicked sort of series of thoughts, and he promised that he would make special allowances for Commander Telek and basically recalibrate the Fraser arrays and the tactical systems in place of somebody from the engineering team. So he would take on extra responsibilities in engineering as payment if Commander Telek kept this secret. So we're talking about a highly neurotic fellow here.
Nick, what do you think?
I think it's very cool. And I think he would agree with that.
And Telek was a teacher, right? So Telek might have actually had like a role as some kind of administrator in this whole situation.
Yeah, it actually could have taken place at the academy.
And then maybe when they were both assigned to the same ship, he's like, oh no!
This is awful. Yeah. By which I mean, this is great, but the character's thinking this is awful.
All right, Brad, I think that just leaves you.
Well, that's great because my idea was for an engineer, and I don't think anyone else picked one. So I'd like to make an engineer that's like the maybe our transporter chief. Maybe takes over when Talak is not on the ship.
Plenty of opportunities there. But yeah, if you can roll the D50 for me.
How do I roll a D50?
I think it's just /R D50.
RD50. Nope. Maybe it's /
I think you need a space between R and D.
All right, let me try again. R. There we go.
34 is you brought on a PC to help another player to help you retrieve something of personal importance. What did you offer for this help, and did you succeed? So if you can roll a D10 for me, we'll see who you brought on to help you. Number 2 is Commander Ash.
So I know the character's name already is Alan Wrench.
Oh.
And I think Alan tried to sneak a personal supply of his family's famous whiskey onto the ship, and he turned to Commander Ash of all people for help. Would Ash have helped with that?
It would have amused her. So she would have given you a warning about like not drinking to excess and make sure you show up to duty on time. But she would have absolutely helped you with that.
So I think that's what happened, and it worked. But Commander Ash knows about this supply, and that's kind of the promise. It's access. Not that Commander Ash is a drinker, but maybe Commander Ash knows that real alcohol can help in certain social situations, and now has access to a supply.
And can certainly hold that over your character if she ever needs to.
So let me just write that down so I put it on the sheet when I make the sheet. But yeah, that's perfect.
All right, guys, that leads us next to talk about Hyperion, and ELH has graciously already made the sheet for the ship. I said the only thing that I'd present to you guys is you don't have to be a technical test bed mission profile.
I mean, personally, I think technical test bed doesn't have to be that. Yeah, we have QSD. It could actually play into something, one of our existing talents, like maybe our advanced research facilities are testing out something new, or maybe our advanced sensor suites are top of the line kind of a thing. Rolling it into fluff rather than an actual mechanical benefit for being a technical test bed.
That's a good call. And one of the things I'm going to bring up when we play is one of the ideas of just the Luna class in general, but in particularly the Hyperion, is we're going to have lots of different characters, different species that may never have been on a ship together, even they were in the Federation. So it could just be the diversity of the crew is a test here on the ship.
Oh, what is it? Cetacean ops? Is that how I say it? Basically, dolphins, whales, aquatic species, etc., etc.
I've already planned for the entirety of Deck 13 to be a underwater deck.
Ooh.
So do we have like the descendants of George and Gracie here with us?
That's an awesome idea. You might.
And of course, it's a silly idea. Do we have a Horda officer on board?
You don't have a Horda yet, but you might. But you do have an Exocomp engineer.
Yeah, I did see the Exocomp in there. I was thinking, that's interesting.
Like a multi-role explorer or pathfinder would also work as a mission profile.
Mm-hmm.
But
And-
I don't really have a preference either way.
And a skill 5, you guys do have one other ship talent you have to decide on.
Given all the difficulty we had in I-13 with taking breaches at 5 resistance, we might want to think about a blade of armor to bring us up to 7, but there are many other reasonable options as well.
Right, and I mean, there is value to what you're bringing up, and that yeah, if we were to take a blade of armor, we would have a resistance of 7. But my counterpoint to that is that the more resistance we tack on, the heavier threats GM Josh has to bring in to challenge us. We already, looking at the sheet, we already have a security of 2, which means that we're definitely not a fighting vessel. And to me, I don't see the value, like from a fluff perspective, to putting a blade of armor on a ship with a security of 2. Like if it was a 3 or 4, I would be totally on board. But because it's a security of 2, I actually would say that I'm against that idea.
I don't have the talents from the other books in front of me, but something like high resolution sensors would make sense.
When I was looking up, was the hot rod talent that came in the Delta book.
What does that do?
I'm pulling
I
up.
like
Here
the
we go.
name.
Let's see. So it says all increases to the complication range of a task involving the engine system that results from adverse environmental conditions, such as stellar phenomena, are reduced by 1 to a minimum of 0. So basically, we wouldn't be getting complication range increases on anything that involves use of the engines.
It sounds highly specific, and I also love it.
Plus, you know, we
That
can
sounds fun.
have we can have Tom Paris make a cameo in the initial episode, maybe, where we're just like, "Hey, your ship's pretty neat. I too made a hot rod once."
I may have to redo the intro though and paint flames on the side of the Hyperion. This seems
What?
appropriate.
Yeah,
Doesn't it already have those? It's the Hyperion.
Only under one of the
We'll have-
nacelles.
we'll have to look more like the Enterprise in Star Trek 2009.
Oh God.
Oh,
I'll add more lens flare. That's what it needs.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'll copy it in there if everybody's on board.
Go for it.
yeah.
All right, I'll copy it in there.
The QSD is
But
not on
it
the
just
sheet.
fits.
The QSD is not on the sheet. It's going to be more of a story element. If it comes up in play to where like you guys need to use the QSD to run away from something, then I'll figure out a way to make that in the rules. But I didn't want that to be a talent that you had to take. Actually, the last thing we had to go over before we finally get into play is I do have 1 or 2 house rules that I like to keep around. The first one is if you're ever in a situation where your character needs momentum, you can, and it depends how you play this, have your uniform ripped or torn off or otherwise damaged. If it's amusing, I may give you momentum. Because that feels very Star Trek. And then also my last rule is, I call it the red shirt rule, is you can give your supporting character the talent red shirt. And if he ever takes an injury, no matter what the circumstances, you cannot avoid the injury. Your red shirt character dies immediately and he's dead for the rest of the session. But at the end of the session, you can re-roll him, keeping all the same stats. He's just a new character with a new name, a new appearance that can be exactly the same, to be a red shirt that's just constantly cycling through over and over. But those are my only 2 house rules. If you guys want to take advantage of those, you're certainly able to.
That's as a talent.
It's a
The red
talent.
shirt.
It's a talent, yeah, that I've created. I can drop it in the chat, the full write-up for it. But yeah, it's a talent that your supporting character can take. Now, it's just like any other
They
talent. You have to have activated them once. So what's the question?
Yeah. So they don't get a talent until we use them, right?
Yeah, you have to activate them
Okay.
once, and then the second time you do, they could take the talent. The way that works is just a fun way of having that character die and being a red shirt, and then not penalizing you for that fun part, and you can replace them very easily. So you don't lose the progression of that character. They keep all their stats, and if they have any improvements otherwise, they just die very easily.
I'm just gonna put that in there already, because
Okay.
that's what I'm gonna give him when we activate him.
Yeah, and any injury, he cannot avoid an injury. If he ever would have sustained an injury, he just dies.
I like it. I think it sounds fun.
And this shirt, the Torn shirt, has come in occasionally. Some people have taken me up on it, but yeah, if your character has damaged their uniform, you can use that to get momentum. And also, not really a house rule because I think this is almost in the system by default. But if you ever have a moment where you make a speech that's very good, compelling, I've certainly thrown out momentum for that in the past.
Also, snake puns. Lots and lots of
Snake puns are now what we have to go with. Everybody, your assignment after this mission is to... I have a list of snake puns I'm going to keep adding to. With that, let's move on to the first mission, or session 0. Let's play some. So we start out at Starbase 185. And like I said, as we started, Starbase 185 is the furthest most outpost that the Federation has to the Delta Quadrant frontier. Voyager has been back for a few months. I'd say maybe 6 months now. Nemesis has already happened, so the Romulan Empire is kind of currently in chaos. The Enterprise E is back in space. She's gone through that. The damage that she sustained has been repaired. And all of you guys have made your way out to Starbase 185 in preparation of being deployed on the USS Hyperion. You all know that you're going on a 5-year mission, so you've all had to get your affairs in order because this is sort of a new thing, especially with the Dominion War. The Federation kind of paused all of their scientific missions, especially in deep space like this. But now that there's not really a threat, they've re-kicked up their efforts of exploration, and you guys are going back into the frontier. The Delta Quadrant is largely unexplored, and for the next 5 years, that's going to be your job. And our first scene is actually, we're going to focus on Mr. Telek. So Telek, what you're doing is you're heading out to the main sort of like eating establishment on the starbase because through a communication that Dr. Idru and actually Mr. Saval are here on Starbase 185 for reasons that don't exactly make sense. But you've been called kind of to join them here. They're both eating. But as you're making your way through the starbase, you stand out actually amongst the rest of the Starfleet personnel because you're wearing the new shiny uniform. The uniform you're wearing is the uniform that we're going to see on lower deck. So it's the return of the very bright colors that Starfleet used to have adopted. The other officers on the starbase are wearing the first contact grays with the gray shoulders. And you stand out as much more colorful, even in the yellow shirt. And you get a lot of glances, as people have noticed you, like, hey, that's the new uniform we're going to get eventually. So this person must be very special. They must be the one going on the 5-year mission. And you get lots of nods and glances as you walk by because everyone realizes that you are something. And as you walk into the bar, you see that it's very crowded. There's lots of folks. And you see across the way is Dr. Idru and Mr. Saval.
Great. Telek is gonna go and sit down with them because I'm sure he doesn't necessarily know everything about why they wanted to meet with him.
And as you approach the two of them, you see that they're sitting at the table, and between them is a game of 3D chess, and they're playing that, it seems. But as you approach, it seems as though Saval has those plates that Picard wore just after he got back from the Borg that were kind of like skin regenerators. He's got some of those on his back, and he's got like a neural sensor on his temple. But as he approaches, you're actually walking behind him. Saval has a chess piece in his hand, and he's starting to put it up on the board. His hand is shaking just slightly, but not too much. And Idru actually rises as you approach. And he says, "Up, Telek. It's great to see you. Why don't you join us?"
Who's winning? And he'll take a seat as well.
I'm afraid that I am not exactly as skilled at this game as I had anticipated. The Doctor is winning once again.
Well, Saval, the point of this game is not necessarily to win. This is a nice exercise on your fine motor skills and also to test that your brain tissue is recovering as expected.
Yes, indeed, Doctor. As you have pointed out, that not everything is about winning.
Nidru turns to you, Telek, and he says, "Hi, so Commander, I'm very excited for you. You're heading out to the frontier, huh?"
Yeah, it'll be nice to get out into space and experience some different things than necessarily staying on one planet for one time for a while. So I'm looking forward to the adventure of it at least.
I have to say, a part of me is quite jealous. Dr. Jarvik is, well, he's very famous in the Federation. You're gonna have one of the best doctors that at least I'm aware of on the ship with you.
That's good to hear. I haven't met him yet, but if he's coming with a recommendation that bright, then I'm glad to hear it.
I'm sure you'll have close contact with Mr. Jarvik because he's a Zindi and he's a Zindi aquatic.
Yes, we have an entire underwater deck actually, which is probably where he's going to spend most of his time.
I read through the diagram. It appears as though most of Deck 15 has holographic projectors, or at least most of the deck is functioning as a giant holodeck, so that virtually those crew members can be projected throughout the ship. Sort of like a telepresence, he can go anywhere on the ship he likes while staying inside the water on Deck 15.
It's definitely an unusual sort of setup, but I think it'll be interesting. It's a new ship with lots of new technologies, so we'll have fun with that.
So I meant to catch up with Captain Shran when I was closer to Earth. Did you have a chance to meet up with him before you came out here?
We met briefly. He has been transferred to a desk job, as you know, and he's not always super excited about that. I know he definitely enjoyed and maybe even envied that I get to go out on this mission, but he's doing well. He didn't end up having too many long-term effects. So I'm very thankful that the end of our mission was as good as it was under the circumstances.
It is unfortunate, however, that so many of the former Starfleet officers and Maquis had to suffer the consequences of our decision to return to Starbase. Nonetheless, it is good to know that he has recovered more completely than I.
I'm sure you'll make it there in time. It just might take a little bit longer.
So the doctor assures me. He has been of great assistance to me in my recovery process.
Most of the work has gone to you, Mr. Serval. You're recovering quite nicely. I expect you'll be back on your feet soon.
Well, I doubt that I will ever be leading away teams and winning marksmanship competitions, but we all serve in our own way.
And just as you say that, Serval, the lights dim a bit in the bar and some clapping starts. And Idru turns to you to I've been waiting for this. Apparently the person coming on, she's very famous, at least on the Starbase in her brief time here. She's a fantastic musician. Let's see what she's got. And walking on the stage with a violin in her hand is Commander Ash.
Okay, so Commander Ash looks out at the crowd, and she gives a rather flamboyant bow, raises the violin, and begins to play what appears to be some kind of strange amalgamation of musical styles that doesn't seem to fit into anything that you can categorize or anything that you've quite heard before. And you recognize that there are hints of Betazoid and Terran music, but it's strange to hear something from Beta Z proceeding from a Terran or human instrument.
As that performance starts, Lieutenant Allen, you've also made your way to the bar here to get something to drink before you have to report to duty on the ship. And as you walk in, you hear Ash's violin, and immediately you notice that you, Ash, and Talek are the only ones wearing the new uniform, and you do stand out.
So Lieutenant Allen will make his way to the bar, and he has a backpack over his shoulder, and he keeps checking it like he's forgetting something. But he sets it down next to him, and he orders a synthahol beverage from the bartender, and then he turns and pays attention to the show.
And just as the bartender puts down a drink, a large Gorn, which is saying something because Gorn are, large anyway, but he kind of slithers his way over to you. And he leans in, you can smell his hot, stinky breath, and he says, "That is my chair. Get out of here, Starfleet."
Oh! And Alan will get up, he'll grab his bag, and he'll step back and say, "I don't see your name on it. I'm not sure if you Gorn know how to write, but you know what? No problem. There are plenty of seats in this bar."
And as you turn, you hear him say, "Ah, cowardly Starfleet. No wonder you lose so much in the Dominion War."
David will ignore that because he knows now is not the time to get into a fight. Just before taking probably the biggest assignment of his career, so he moves to a table by himself, and I think he puts his bag down and starts looking through it because 5-year mission, you can't forget anything. You have to make sure you have everything, and he has that feeling that he's forgotten something.
You definitely don't want to forget your toothbrush.
Exactly. Where would you get another one?
And as the music stops, Ash, everyone starts clapping, and the lights come back, and everyone kind of goes back to their drinks and their conversations. But you are left on the stage by yourself.
Okay. Ash would replace the violin inside a violin case and take it along with her, approaching the table with Commander Talek. "Commander, Doctor, how are we doing?"
That was a great performance.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, I understand that you're going to be the chief engineer on our 5-year voyage.
I will indeed.
I've actually been meaning to speak with you, Commander. Took a look at the readouts on our forward and lateral sensor arrays on board the Hyperion. I noticed that there's an 8-micron discrepancy between them.
Oh, that would be a problem. Well, before we set out, I can recalibrate those again and just do another test to make sure that everything is in order.
Mm-hmm. Listen, Commander, I expect regular maintenance to be done on my ship properly. So, do better in the future, would you?
Of course. I will make sure that everything is in working condition.
And she smiles, and it is rather disturbing. Says nothing, does not say goodbye, and then walks off, unless you stop her. Which you probably
Nope. You can walk off.
As Ash is leaving the bar, I think Ash, your path takes you right by Lieutenant Allen. Which again, Allen stands out just the same as you in Talek because your uniforms are totally different than everyone else.
So Ash will actually pass by David Allen and go up to the bar and order. Would Romulan ale be legal at this juncture?
It's available. I don't think it's legal.
Okay. Then Saurian brandy.
And after a moment, the bartender, he turns to the replicator behind him and he replicates some Saurian brandy and he drops it down and turns away. And beside you is also the smelly Gorn, although he's not really paying you too much attention. He looks you up as you walk to the bar, but he's mostly just staring daggers at Alan.
She'll observe him, kind of calculating eye for a moment, take a swig of the Saurian brandy, and just say to the bartender, "You've got a really hard job here, eh?"
Yeah, well, they give me some money to run the replicator. It's a hard job.
Yeah, looks like it. Looks like it. All right. Well, thanks for the drink.
He leans in. You might want to stay away from that guy, that Gorn. He's a real piece of work.
That just makes me want to not stay away from.
Okay, Starfleet, do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, he's busted more than a few heads in this bar.
Well, thanks for the warning. That's nice of you. She'll give him a brief salute with the glass, and then she will join David Allen at his table. And yeah, go ahead.
I think as soon as David notices the commander joining him at the table, he bolts up to attention. He didn't even notice her pass by before. He was too busy looking at his backpack with a worried look on his face. But he jumps up to attention. Oh, Commander!
Yes, Lieutenant.
Terrific performance, sir.
Well, I'm glad you got that right. Starfleet protocol does say that commanding officers should be addressed as sir, not ma'am or commander. So, good on that. Nice protocol.
Care to join me for a drink, sir?
And then she smiles and actually bursts out laughing. Lieutenant, why don't you sit down before you have an aneurysm?
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. And David sits down. It's just this is the opportunity I've wanted my whole entire career, and I feel like I've lost something, and I don't know, I'm freaking out here.
Well, look, whatever it is, can't have been all that important if you forgot about it, right? And let me tell you, you don't have to call me sir. You can call me Commander Ash. That's fine.
Thanks, Commander Ash. And then he looks at the bag again, and he grabs an item, and oh, it was there the whole time. Look, and my great grandfather had this on every mission he undertook for Starfleet, and it's a good luck charm in the family, and it's a Microsoft Zune.
Well, I don't exactly know what that is, and you see that she's actually started to tighten up a little bit, and she is withdrawn slightly in her chair. She takes a long swig of the Saurian brandy and finishes it off. So it's a family heirloom, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is either. It has some sort of screen. It might be some sort of early version of a tricorder or data pad, but I don't know. It helped for my father, my grandfather.
Well,
So I'm going to keep it on me at all times.
I hesitate to mention this, but our chief engineer, and she jerks a thumb over her shoulder towards Talek, is over at that table. I think he's with a few former shipmates. He might be able to take a look at it for you, tell you what it's supposed to do. I don't know if he has any expertise in ancient technology. Lord knows he can't get sensor arrays working properly, but could help you. I don't know.
I don't mean to pry, Commander, but do you have some sort of issue with Commander Talek?
Oh, I'm sure he's a fine officer.
Well, maybe I'll take you up on that advice and get the commander to look at this thing. Have no idea what it does. It could be some sort of ancient weapon.
Well, all the more reason to have somebody look at it then. And, Lieutenant, why don't you take another drink? You look like you need it.
Yes, sir. And takes a swig of the synthol.
Oh, that's just sad.
Excuse me?
Synthahol. Why even bother?
Well, alcohol is illegal. I've just never. Are you saying you drinking the real stuff here?
That's one way of putting it, I suppose, yeah. I mean, live a little.
How do you even go about? I'll figure it out for myself. Thank you, Commander.
You're welcome, Lieutenant. Best of luck with that family heirloom.
And the lieutenant will go back to his drink, um, giving the occasional side eye to the Gorn.
And we're actually going to transition from this scene to Captain Nix. And the scene starts, Captain, as you're walking into the office of Admiral Janeway. The Admiral's position at this point is she's head of Delta Quadrant operations, obviously because she has a specialty in this. She knows more about it than anyone else. But she's invited you to her office to talk about your mission, and as the door opens, she welcomes you in. Captain, welcome. Please, take a seat. Or a couch, and she points to the couch, if that's more comfortable.
Don't worry, Admiral. I've dealt with this my whole career. The couch will do lovely. And I sort of slither on over and take a seat, like an actual seat, and then just sort of coil up my tail at the sort of base of the couch.
You notice that Admiral Janeway is still wearing the old uniform, and she has a little bit more gray in her hair than perhaps we as players would have seen from the last time when she was on Voyager. So she's aged a little bit, but she seems to be more comfortable now after she's had the well-deserved shore leave time between her assignments. But as you sit, she walks further into the room, and she motions to the plate that's on the table here in front of you, and she says, "Captain, could I get you a cup of coffee?"
A cup of coffee would be lovely. Do you replicate it, or do you make it yourself?
Oh, I make it myself. Since returning from the Delta Quadrant and 7 years of living off of replicated coffee, let's say I've given up the replicated stuff for now. This is I brewed it myself, and she pours you a hot cup and passes it to you.
And as one does when it's real coffee, you don't add anything when you take your first sip. So, I give it sort of that aromatic sniff, and she actually kind of pulls the cup back a little bit to look at it a bit more introspectively and says, Earth, Colombian?
And you notice Janeway, as she says this, she leans back and she crosses her legs and kind of holds the cup with both hands. She says, "Very good, Captain. That's exactly correct." And you get the feeling as she's drinking it, she's taking small sips, that she's really sizing you up.
And Nix takes another sniff and then takes a slight sip and says, You've adequately balanced the acidic nature of the beans with the brewing style. Did you use a French press, perhaps?
I did, Captain. It's an acquired taste for some, but I'm glad you can appreciate it.
Well, as with all in my species, let's just say that our sense of taste is a bit unique compared to other Federation species.
Indeed, you're actually the first of your species that I've ever encountered.
Well, most of us run the freighters these days, the old Antares classes, which really should have been mothballed decades ago, but someone's got to run the supply lines.
Indeed, especially after the Dominion War, I'm quite excited to see that Starfleet has decided to return back to its mission of exploration.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you there, Admiral. I believe that it is our utmost duty to explore what's out there and to seek out the unknown. Though I will admit, I'm not quite sure the uniform fits on me quite yet, and she sort of tugs at her collar.
And she smiles and she says, don't worry, Captain. I'm sure both the uniform and the command will eventually become very comfortable to you. This is your first time as captain, correct?
That is correct, Admiral, yes.
And she kind of leans forward a little bit and she says, uh, a 5-year mission is a difficult mission even for an experienced captain. Between the two of us, do you feel like you're up for it?
There is a old saying, I believe it was from my great grandmother. It doesn't really translate quite well to Federation Common, but it goes something along the lines of those who journey. And she pauses for a moment. That's not right. And there's definitely like a pause where she is deliberately trying to make sure she's saying it right. And she starts a few times, like, tries to translate and eventually just shakes her head and almost hisses a little bit and says, the point I'm trying to make, Admiral, even though I can't seem to translate today, is that the only reason I took this command is because I truly believe that no one else would be qualified for it. And though my own qualifications may not be as much as others, I feel it's my duty as a former engineer to really bring the scientific and engineering perspective to command that wasn't available in other candidates.
And she raises an eyebrow and she says, you realize that by partaking this mission, you will join the hallowed list of 5-year captains. It's been such a long time since a 5-year mission was actually completed or even started by Starfleet. You will be joining the ranks of Pike, Kirk, Decker, Miller, and all of those other captains bravely going into the unknown. You'll be out there on your own.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm alone. I have over 200 officers that I can call on to aid me, and they'll be just as much in the history books as me.
Indeed. And she stands up from her chair and walks over to her display and she hits a few buttons. And she says, you will be alone, of course, but not completely alone. The Starship Concorde, captained by Captain Harrison, will be, well, relatively close in an emergency situation. And she opens a map on the screen and you can see it's a map of the Delta Quadrant, and in the lower part of the screen is Starbase 185, and above that is just a whole blank nothing. And then for a long ways it's just nothing, and then there's points above that start to have labels, and she motions to it and she goes, this is actually the furthest point that my ship Voyager was able to record the Delta Quadrant before let's say we took a shortcut home. This, and she points to the blank area, this is where you're going to get started. I don't know what you're going to find here.
And Nix actually rises up from the couch and sort of moves over to get a better look at the map, and strokes her chin in thought and says, are the Hirogen sensor network, is that still intact?
We believe so. With the Dominion War, Starfleet stopped any sensor scans and probing into the Delta Quadrant. It just wasn't necessary. So really, since Voyager passed through this area, there's been no data collected at all. In 6 months' time, anything could have happened.
True. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, Admiral, but how would you qualify your relationship with the Hirogen after the fact?
She raises an eyebrow. Well, Captain, put it delicately, our relationship was strained at times. If you encounter them, the best thing to do is to give them as much space as you can.
That is my initial thought, but she sort of stares at the map, squints her eyes a little bit. If I remember reading Voyager's logs appropriately, there should be a sensor platform here, and she points at a spot on the map. It might be behoove of us to try and get access to it, because last I checked, the Hirogen keep pretty detailed maps of the area.
That's true, Captain. You'll have a ways to go before you can actually access that sensor network, if it's still there and functional. However, now that your ship is equipped with a quantum slipstream drive, copied in part by what we were able to get working on Voyager, you should be able to make up this distance fairly quickly.
Yes, I am already looking forward to long debates with my chief engineer about how long we can maintain QSD. Let's just say that the temptation of commanding a ship with QSD was also a factor in me taking command.
And she smiles. But just remember, Captain, and this may go against your nature as an engineer, you're going to be out there in the frontier. You're going to see things no one has seen before. You're going to meet people that no one in the Federation has ever met before. Take your time and enjoy it.
Well, Admiral, I will. And she actually turns and sets down an empty coffee cup and says, "Thank you so much for the coffee, Admiral. I'll have to make sure I have one of my acquaintances back on Earth send you a little something from, what is it called on Earth? France? Is that a country on Earth? I believe it is.
It is indeed.
Well, they brew quite a mean cup of coffee, if I do say so myself. Something about the Riviera era or something to that effect.
And she notices that you're trying to leave the room, and she puts down her cup. Actually, you notice she really hasn't even drank much of it. And she says, "Captain, before you go, I know you're eager to get started. We have to talk about the Borg."
And Nyx there's a full body sigh as she says, "Yes, I was hoping we wouldn't have to discuss that, but go ahead, Admiral, I'm all ears."
And her face drops. Like, she doesn't have the smile, the warm appearance that she had before. You can tell that this is something. You can almost feel the stress in the room as she starts on. "Captain, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't really have any clue on what's going on in Borg space. Since the disruption of their transwarp conduit network, there's been no contact with the Borg since then, and thankfully so. I'd extend my advice, much like the Hirogen, if you encounter the Borg, do your best to stay away from them."
Nyx thinks for a moment, puts a hand to her chin again. "Admiral, this may seem an unconventional question, but did you ever hear back from the faction of 8472 that was impersonating Starfleet personnel in a simulation? Uh, quote unquote Boothby and quote unquote Miss Valerie Archer."
We did not. There are so many questions about the situation with species 8472 and the Borg that we don't have answers for. While getting some of those answers would be nice, you will be out there on your own. Now, even with the help of the Concorde, she's a Galaxy-class starship and certainly formidable, and the two of you together, I don't want you to think that you can solve this Borg problem on your own, or that you should. If you can gather any intelligence for us, that would be very useful. But the situation with the Borg it's very complicated.
As all things with the Borg are.
There's a whole team, a whole division, an entire department and committee trying to decide on what to do with the Borg when you encounter them. And I say when you encounter them. I would only offer that protect your ship, protect your crew, find out what you can. It's possible that the collective has been completely disrupted since the loss of their queen. But if they can do anything, they can adapt. And part of me is a little terrified on what they may have changed into since our time away from the Delta Quadrant.
And Nyx actually smiles in an attempt to be a little bit more light about the situation and says, you never know, maybe they've taken up some form of interpretive dance."
And she actually laughs kind of hard at that. "Indeed, with Borg implants, that would be something to see. But I won't keep you any
Yes, I
further."
believe there's a human dance known as the robot. I
And,
wonder if they've assimilated that one.
and she kind of cocks her head. "I'm not familiar with the robot."
It's something I learned in the academy. Fellow ensign did a horrible squirming sort of motion and called it the robot, but perhaps I jest too much. It's one of my coping mechanisms.
And she smiles. Whatever it takes. I'll leave you to it, Captain. And she extends her hand and she says, I look forward to reading your reports about what you're going to encounter out there, or what you see out there.
And I take her hand, give a firm handshake, and say, thank you for the opportunity, Admiral. I won't let you down.
Good luck and Godspeed, Commander.
And flashes a smile, and getting the sense that now is when she can leave, she'll move for the door.
And just as you walk out, Captain, you turn a corner, I'm assuming you're heading towards the ship, and you almost run headlong into a human male. He's wearing 4 Captain Pips. He's still wearing the old uniform, so the grays. And he looks like he could be the poster child for Starfleet, in that, he's got the perfect chiseled jaw, his uniform is immaculate, his haircut's perfect. And he sizes you up immediately as you almost run into each other around the corner, and he says, oh, you must be Captain Nix.
I sort of cock my head to the side. I'm sorry, you have me at a loss.
Captain Harrison, USS Concord, and he extends a hand.
Yes, the Admiral did just mention you, and I, of course, shake his hand warmly.
I'm going to be your counterpart out in the Delta Quadrant. For the next 5 years, we're going to be, well, not exactly going through this together, but we're going to be each other's backup.
Well, any situation that you require of us, I'd be happy to assist you. But tell me, how are you managing the QSD on a vessel the size of a Galaxy class?
Well, we do have a QSD system aboard the Concorde. It's going to be a little bit slower, so we'll be taking our time. You will be blazing ahead, of course, and we'll be mopping up, so to speak.
Well, I'll have to make sure that the messes we leave behind are at least palatable ones.
Thank you, Captain. And actually, in the spirit of that, I wanted to kind of issue a challenge to you, a friendly wager, if you will.
Well, let me just say that if you're about to engage in a intensification of the phase thermal polarizing grid, my engineering team will have yours beat in no time at all.
Actually, Captain, I was going to recommend a war game.
A war game?
Well, since your crew is new, you're in a brand new ship, I thought this might be the perfect time to engage in a little tactical exercise before it becomes real.
I'm assuming training phasers, training torpedoes, etc., etc.
Of course. Let's do friendly. Let's say the first ship that has its engines disabled is the loser.
And when would you like this to take place?
Well, we've got work to do, so why don't we get it done now?
I tap my comm badge and I say, Captain Nix to Commander Ash.
This is Commander Ash. How can I help you, Captain?
Commander Ash, I'm sitting here with Captain Harrison. We're wanting to engage in a little bit of sport, a little bit of a war game. Do you think you could have the Hyperion ready to go in, say, 30 minutes?
I'll have it done in 20.
Very good. I will see you then. Captain out. And then to Harrison, I say, well, we have probably 15 minutes knowing my first officer.
Very good, Captain. Take the time that you need. I'll be on the Concorde. We'll be standing ready.
Oh, and Captain, let's keep this gentlemanly, I believe is the expression. No prefix code usage.
He laughs. I would never resort to such devious means, Captain. But I do warn
Good,
you
because
that
I would.
The Concorde and I are full of Dominion War veterans. Fighting is what we're used to.
Well, hopefully we will provide a adequate challenge for you then.
Indeed, Captain. I look forward to giving your crew a little bit of training.
I shake his hand again, maybe a little bit more firm this time, but, keeping up that friendly appearance.
And he turns and walks away with a definite swagger as he's going down the hallway.
And Ash is probably already talking to Telek, but I tap my comm magic and I say, this is Captain Nix to Commander Telek.
Yes, Captain?
Tell me, are you up to date with the Riker maneuver?
I believe I know what you're talking about. Yes?
Well, let's just say we're going to need to be able to do it on very short notice. Do you think you can have that ready to go?
Of course.
Good. If Ash hasn't already contacted you, you probably have about 10 minutes to get it ready.
Understood. I'll be right on that.
Very good, Captain Out. And then I start moving towards the ship, pause, look back over my shoulder, and there's sort of a strange expression on my face, almost like I'm forgetting something. And I say, you know, why do I get the sense this is going to be very prophetic for some reason? Hmm. Shakes her head and heads towards the ship.
And as you all are making your way to the ship at this point, you've made your way through the crowds of people in the starbase. Again, everyone, it gives you a look as not only you stand out for the uniforms, but everyone recognizes that the new uniform means that you've almost achieved a celebrity status as being the crew that's going to go on this 5-year mission. But as you make your way to the Hyperion, as you're working, you step on and go towards your stations or where have you, you realize that this is a brand new ship. She's still got that new ship smell. All of the surfaces are nice and clean and sparkly. The carpet's freshly clean. No red shirts have been disintegrated anywhere, so there's none of that. But all the systems are top of the line. You walk onto the turbo lift, and you say where you want to go, and seconds later it takes you there. I'm gonna move us to the bridge. The bridge of the Luna class is much like as I've described, top of the line. The display is already configured towards your preferences, from the last time you were writing your stations. Ash, I've got you in a science station in the front. Our pilot, I think, would go next to you here. Talek, I have you in an engineering station. Nyx, of course, at the captain's chair, and Lieutenant Allen back in the shared tactical space here. As you guys take your station, Ash, you get a communication from the space dock and the starbase, at least 185. You guys have been cleared to launch whenever you'd like.
Well, Captain, we're ready to engage in the war games whenever you are. I would like to point out that a Dominion War Galaxy class is, well, it's not something I'd want to take on in a Luna class, a science vessel. But even with those ablative armor upgrades, the Galaxy relies heavily on its shields.
Continue. I feel like you have a lot to say on this subject, Commander.
Well, I'm no tactical officer or engineer, but I'm sure that there's some way we can exploit the fact that they use those old-style shield grids. They probably haven't upgraded to contemporary designs.
And I tap the armrest of my chair to bring up a schematic of the Galaxy class. And I like to flavor it that maybe we're at that point in Star Trek technology where it's not quite at Picard levels, but I can swoop up an image and have it sort of float up to the view screen so everyone can see it. And what's displaying is a zoomed in sort of cutaway / MSD of where the saucer section and the secondary hull of the Galaxy class are meant to disconnect. And I highlight the area where that happens, and I say, if I remember correctly, this is actually a weak point of the Galaxy class, wherein the self-sealing stem bolts that are used to keep the two sections of the ship connected, if you hit it with enough firepower and enough disruption, the ship will literally break apart. And this was actually something that the Dominion used when we first sent, what was it? Out of character. I'm trying to remember the name of the ship that they.
The Odyssey.
The Odyssey, yes. That the Odyssey had to deal with during their first encounter with the Dominion.
Talek, no pressure, but let's do the first roll of the game. Can you give me an engineering insight difficulty of 2?
Did I focus for this?
You do.
I thought so, but I had to ask just to make sure if it worked or not.
Nice.
Perfect. So looking at the schematic, you notice as the captain is talking about, you pick out several things, and I'll just tell you these right away. Apparently, the Concorde has a few extra special modifications, perhaps from the war, that make it stand out a little more than a Galaxy class. She not only has reinforced hull integrity, she also has an extra secondary reactor to give her more power, and even further that, she has redundant engine systems.
That's very interesting. I will obviously relay that information.
Well, it makes sense why Captain Harrison wanted to be the one to set the terms of knocking out the engines. That's going to be rather difficult here.
It's not
But
exactly
we're not going to be
cheating,
going.
but yeah, stacking the deck in his favor.
Right.
It's a little cheating.
I like this guy.
Yeah. But no, I sort of look at the schematic as I'm assuming Telex tells everyone this.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I get that, I sort of think for a moment and point out another area. So I know we're using training weapons for this, but is it still the case, Commander Telek, that the primary linear osmotic gradient catalyst is right about here?
It should be, unless they have something very custom on their ship.
Well, again, if I remember correctly, even if they have backup engines and backup power systems, if we hit that catalyst with the right frequency, it should cause a cascading invariant field, which will knock out their engines.
Basically, just cut off their engines from the rest of the power supply.
Yeah, call it a, well, let's just say the updated Kobayashi Maru. I may have broken it a little bit.
I see. Yeah, I think we can do that.
Good. And then I look around at everyone on the bridge. Anyone have anything else to say before I contact Captain Harrison and tell him we're almost ready?
Commander Ash, why don't you give me a reason science difficulty of 0 assisted by the ship's sensor science?
Okay, would I have a focus in this?
You do have a focus on this.
Wow.
That is a very good roll. Wow. Okay, so 5 successes. You can ask me more questions, of course, using any of that, or you can just keep all that momentum if you'd like. But just a quick scan of the system that the Starbase 185 is in. There is a spatial disturbance not too far away. It looks like the residual of what might have used to have been a nebula in this system that would provide a little bit of cover, a little bit of interference. It would work both ways, though. Like, you could put the ship in that area. It would be more difficult to hit the ship, but also more difficult for the Hyperion to hit anything. Also, there's a comet passing through the system that might be of interest to someone from astrometrics, but that's what you've noticed.
You know, Captain, there's a cloud of stellar gas out there. The old Galaxy class sensor arrays aren't nearly up to snuff when you compare it to, well, the advanced sensor suites on board this ship. We'd be at a disadvantage if we entered in it, but I don't know. It might help level the playing field a little bit.
Tell me more about this comet, and I sort of do a flicking motion to make the comet enlarge on the view screen. Can you tell me about that? And that's an open question to everyone on the bridge.
How about this? Since it's session 0, I'll let you guys decide what's special about the comet.
I'm frantically looking on Memory Alpha for things that aren't going to blow up a Galaxy class, but are still going to be useful.
Yeah, because these guys are also your backup. You don't want to destroy them or disable them.
Right.
You just want to annoy them.
Yeah, right.
Well, Captain, it seems as if there's a heavy concentration of baryonic matter inside the liquid crystalline lattice of the comet. If we rerouted power from the weapon systems to the deflector array, we could almost ignite it. It wouldn't actually do any damage, but it would probably be able to knock out their sensor systems temporarily. That would give us time to, well, disable their engines.
You know, I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Would there be any danger to us?
Well, we'd have to time it right, and it would depend on our helm officer and a coordination between tactical and, well, me. But we could get away unscathed. We just have to maneuver the Galaxy-class ship into position.
Ah. Well, it's a good thing I had the engineers paint a few flames on the hull just for extra flair. Very well. Commander, take us out. 1/4 impulse.
And moving out of the starbase, we get that nice shot of going through the doors, the Luna class ship, the Hyperion, as she moves out into open space. And I'm actually going to transition us to this point aboard.
I think. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
When the captain orders 1/4 impulse out of the starbase, I probably give a few nervous looks around the bridge, but I'm
Commander,
too afraid to say anything to the captain.
Commander Ash would see that and lean back in her chair for a moment and say, "You know, Captain, Starfleet regulations do say that you're supposed to operate on maneuvering thrusters only inside of a starbase. So why don't we kick it up to half impulse?"
I like the way you think. As long as you don't scrape the paint on the way out, go for it.
Con,
Just
take
for
us out.
that, let's do a con roll. Let's do a con daring difficulty of 2. And then I'd say the engine's con of the ship can assist.
I assume we have a helm officer, the secondary character. Has that been made?
Yeah, we cooked up somebody had the supporting character that was going to be the pilot.
Yeah, I got him. He is Senior Chief Harlock. Has no relation to the Captain Harlock, but no, he's definitely a cameo. But yeah, control and con, you said?
Yeah, control con.
Cool.
Assistant.
Difficulty?
It's a difficulty of 2. Helm operations that you have for focus would apply, and the ship can assist with a con engines.
Cool. Someone could grab the ship, and then I think Ash wanted to assist.
No, I was just going to roll for the ship.
Ah, okay. I tell you what, we've got 5 momentum, and we don't want to scratch the paint. Let's spend 1 momentum so that I have 3 die. So I'll fix that in a moment. I do have a focus. Survey says, hey, 2 successes.
So to justify the difficulty that I made you guys...
Actually, 3 successes, so we actually get that momentum right back.
Yep. I was going to say, justifying that I had you guys roll to exit the space dock, which would normally just be a trivial thing, I'm actually, as we move into structured combat, going to give you guys not only the first, but the first 2 turns for free. You're like taking the initiative here. And that would be Nyx, if you don't even want to start like a friendly conversation with Harrison, if you want to actually start the thing like immediately, you could do that. Or you could...
I was looking for the Concord on the map. I found them.
Yeah, it's at extreme range. You could basically do a jest, and that would get rid of one of your free turns. But I would actually give you guys the first 2 turns if you'd like, basically giving you like the quick to action for free.
Could we pull off the Comet plan based on where we are right now?
I think for
or would we have to move closer?
I think you'd have to move closer. So to repeat the Comet plan for me, you guys want to basically kick the Comet right at the Concorde?
Yeah, if I understood our own plan correctly, we're basically going to swoop in close, tractor beam it, and basically like slingshot it at the Concorde.
Yeah, I would say since it's you're gonna have to get into close range, so you're gonna have to make at least 1 move to get inside of 2 units, and then you could use the tractor beam to do that.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that because I believe for medium range we can move for free, no power cost involved.
That's correct.
And let's move there. So move to there. Now, this is a question that I've never gotten a solid answer from the actual devs on. Are we meant to roll every time we do impulse? The rules imply we do, but it's also one of those situations where, because it's difficulty 0, is there a reason to roll for it is the question.
I think the way I'll flavor it is I'll leave that up to you guys if you want to roll or not. If you roll, there's the possibility of complications. So you're capped at
Right.
momentum now. So it's kind of up to you.
Well, here's my thought, and of course, someone feel free to stop me. But my thought is, if we get 3 successes, that not only will cap us on momentum, but we will also be able to have 2 floating momentum that we can spend on an advantage. And that advantage could be that part of our movement is actually also evasive action.
Yeah, why not? Let's
I do like
try it.
advantages.
I do love advantages. All right. So, if I remember correctly, that's another control con and another engines con from the ship. So, I'm going to roll 2d20. Have an applicable focus. Lovecraft, if you could get the ship for me.
Engines
Sure.
con on the ship.
Hey, there's our 3. So yeah, I would like to spend the floating momentum to say that we have more or less an integrated evasive pattern omega into our little maneuver here.
I'll say that increases the difficulty, hits you guys by 1 for until your turn comes around again. And I'll mark that with that icon.
Cool. Then, as Harlock swoops us in, I look to Ash and I say, well, Commander Ash, it's time to see how well you can finesse the tractor beam.
Oh, Captain, I'm sure that Lieutenant Allen would be far more skilled at that than I.
Last I checked, Commander, tractor beam is your department. And I give you a wink.
Well, let's give it a shot then.
So I just checked, and the comment is at medium range to the Concorde.
Oh, right. We need to be close. So
Oh, you're in close. You're in close range of the comet, but the comet is in medium range to the Concorde.
Gotcha.
You could use the tractor beam. I'm just trying to think of what the difficulty is going to be to do this maneuver. Ash, did you have something?
Well, I was just wondering if we could perhaps combine this somehow with like a jump to warp.
Oh, and like just blast it at them. I mean, we have 6 momentum. We could just spend 2 of that to create an advantage.
Let's remember not to be too hard on the Concorde.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of the thing here is we don't want to like literally hit them with the comet so hard that we breach the saucer section. But we do want it to have a hopefully unavoidable effect nonetheless.
And as a reminder too, they have 7 resistance, so you're gonna have to spend quite a bit of momentum to even damage them.
I think I got it. I think what we do here. So what we do is we spend 2 momentum for the advantage that, again, this comet is a dampening effect. So it doesn't really matter how much damage we do, it's how many effects we roll.
So are you using the comet to drain the power of the Concorde?
Yeah,
I
I
believe
think
so. Yeah.
basically we're saying that it has some kind of unique baryonic properties that, when combined with a precisely timed phaser shot from Lieutenant Allen exploding right in front of the Concorde, it induces a dampening effect.
So why don't I sell you guys on 2 different ways you might be able to do this? One way is you might be able to launch the comet actually at the Concorde and then fire some sort of weapon at the comet when it's in range and burst, make it burst and keep the range that you're currently at. Or you could grab the comet, go to warp or something else to get in close range, basically taking it yourself and then detonating it.
I kind of like that second option. Also,
did
you
say-
are right. It is a security task. I thought it was con. So yes, it would be our lovely tactical officer, not you. That is my apologies. I had them mixed up.
No worries. Also, my con is terrible, so never ask me to do that.
Again, we're learning what each other's characters could do.
Oh yeah.
The answer is always ask you to do that.
Uh-huh. All right. So how do we want to do this, GM Josh? Standard tractor beam task and then difficulty of what, 3, 4?
Let's do. I'd say it was a difficulty of 3, but I've got all of these board getting to spend, so we're gonna say it's a difficulty of 4 to grab the tractor
Okay.
beam. To grab it with the tractor beam, rather. And I believe
All
let's do
right.
security. I think it's security control.
Yeah, it's security control and the ship assists with structure security.
Now, this is definitely an unorthodox combat tactic that I'm trying to pull off.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
I would also like to buy an extra die with 1 momentum.
Would you like to?
Yeah, let's do 2.
All right.
Commander Telek, you realize as this is going on, I won't make you do a roll for this because I think you'd intuit this with your, especially with your focus and power systems, and that this plan to grab the comet and basically drop it down the Concorde's throat when you detonate it has as equal amount of threat for your ship as it does for the Concorde if it's not pulled off correctly.
Am I still rolling this?
That makes me really worried. Why did you tell me that?
For precisely that reason.
Captain, I think we should maybe take a moment to make sure that we do this 100% correctly, because the Hyperion may also be damaged if this maneuver goes incorrectly.
Oh, that's why we're going to trust in our tactical officer and con officer to do it right the first time.
Understood? Telek is internally screaming.
Well, apparently Mr. Allen is on the ball today. Is someone getting the ship?
You've already got one more success than you needed. Yeah, if someone could roll the ship.
Structure
Telek is still
security.
internally screaming.
Yeah, structure security. Wow.
Wow, that's great. So I think you
Wow.
guys have 3 extra successes there.
We're capped again.
So we see the
I'm very
Hyperion.
glad that didn't go badly.
We see the Hyperion swoop in, and the tractor beam engages as David, scoops it up and is being pulled behind from the Hyperion. However, that is your 2 turns. I believe the first one was moving you into range, and the second one was actually activating the tractor beam. So you guys can do your next helm action to move on your next turn. But I believe at this point it is the Concorde.
Mm-hmm.
Let me actually see how far away you guys are. 7 units. That is prime for a torpedo. So that's actually what the Concorde is going to do. It's going to lock onto you and fire her photon torpedoes.
That's
Cool.
cheating.
These are
Well,
simulated.
it's also difficulty of 4 for them because we
Oh,
do
that's
have
right.
that evasive maneuver baked into our turns there.
Thank you for reminding me. However, with the 6th threat, I'm going to buy them 2 extra dice.
Yikes. Yeah, they hit us.
6 successes. Needed 4, so I've got 2 extra threat here. For torpedoes, that was 4 damage. Use those 2 successes I got to bypass 4 resistance, and then let's see, you guys have 5 resistance, so 1 threat to bypass your last resistance, and then 1 more threat for an extra damage. So that causes at least 1 breach, 2 breaches with torpedoes, and that's 5 off your shields.
Mm-hmm. Which bar are we using for shields, blue or green?
Let's do green.
Okay, sorry about that.
Well, it looks like the blue is 15, so do we only have 10 shields? Huh. Yeah, we only have 10 shields.
Yeah, the 2 breaches. Let's see where they end up. First breach is
Of
to
course
engines,
it's
unfortunately,
engines.
and the
Oh,
second.
good.
So 2 breach
Oh,
to
good.
engines. Sorry.
Well, that's definitely 2 power off? Because I think each breach to engines is it's 2 power. Crap. Okay, no, it's when the engine system suffers 1 or more breaches. Okay, so we only lose the 2 power, but somebody has to restore the engines on their next action.
You're
But
still
it's only a
technically
minor action to restore.
Yeah, you're still technically only at impact. The next breach will be damaged, and then after that, it gets worse. So, not too bad yet. I think the other thing is, until you do the minor, all tasks assisted by engines or which have a power requirement, increase in difficulty and complication range.
Mhm.
I have a question. Does the ship simulate the shock of the impact in one of these fake battles?
I think it does. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Fake rocks?
You know what? You guys have holographic projectors on every room, on every deck. Yeah, I'd say even in the quarters. So yeah, you could have holographic rocks, Captain. If you would like that to simulate this as a full experience for your crew, you could actually have simulated rocks fly from the ceiling.
Commander
As long as
Ash.
they're not real rocks.
Yeah, I was like, Commander Ash, make sure the safeties are on the holodeck and then turn on the rocks and the sparks and all the things that love to break in these sorts of situations.
Do you want your console to explode?
Not quite yet. Let's take another few hits before that happens.
No, when the shields drop, sure. You got it, Captain.
Over the comm, you hear Captain Harrison. He says, Hyperion, I'm not really sure what you guys are doing with that comment.
I don't reply. I think we just stay quiet. We don't say a dang thing.
But it's you guys.
All right, so I guess we restore engines as our minor. And then we basically Picard maneuver them where we do that micro warp burst and just boom.
You're going to have to be in close range, so, at least 1 or 2 squares away for this to work.
Right, so we are going to have to warp. So that's get warp again.
I think it's 1 power for every zone.
Right, so that would be 2 power.
Yeah, 2 power. I think I will make you guys do a roll because you're pulling a comet behind you, though. Gonna move the comet right here.
Now, is it still difficulty 0?
No, I'm gonna increase that. Let's say it's a difficulty of 3. Yeah, difficulty of 3. Sounds fair.
Because my argument would be we have the hot rod talent. Oh, no, wait, that's only complication range. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that'll come into play when you guys detonate this thing and you have to actually get out of it.
Fair. All right. I guess unless anyone wants to take this, I guess Harlock's rolling again.
Well, this maneuver into range out.
All right. If someone could get the ship's engines con. Difficulty of 3. Let's spend 3 momentum. All right, Mr. Harlock. Don't fail me now.
Wow.
Nice. So we actually get, what is that, 1 momentum back? No, 2 momentum
That's
back.
2. Yeah. So we see the Hyperion dragging the comet, in front, I guess. A small micro jump, and you guys move into close range of the Concorde.
And as far as I know, we can't quick to action again, even by spending momentum. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Because I
All
gave
right,
you
well, we're
you guys
just
that
gonna
for
have
free.
to hope that they miss.
I think what they're actually going to do, since they've already used their technical action for this round, is they're actually going to scan you guys for weakness. Since you were at close range, which I believe is the optimal difficulty for them.
It is.
I think I'm going to save that threat. We're just going to roll it and see what happens.
Yeah, they got it.
Yep, that's 3 successes. I'll make a note of that. So on your console, Ash and Alan, you guys would have detected that they have pointed all of their sensors right at a particular spot on the Hyperion. Let's say around the sensor pod that's on top of the saucer. They seem to be very interested in that.
Well, Captain, it seems they've targeted us. Lieutenant, tactical assessment?
My console's lit up like a Christmas tree. If you know what a Christmas tree is. Sir.
Some holiday thing on Earth. We'll talk about it later. Are we ready to detonate that comet?
On your command, sir.
Do it.
So the problem here is because Alan has already acted, someone else can override his console, but it'll be a higher difficulty.
Could I not
Direct?
if I direct him,
You could direct,
Yeah.
yep.
then I'm going to rise from my chair, maybe go to my quote unquote full height and, adjust the uniform. Mr. Allen, I want to see explosions out that window.
All right. What do I need here to blow up an asteroid? Comet.
Let's just say it's going to be, I was thinking about this as we've been talking about it. Let's just do a normal phaser roll. However, every success that you roll will be the damage, the number of challenge dice that you roll in damage. And then all of those dice will have the dampening effect. So you could easily beat the difficulty, but the higher you beat the difficulty, the more it's going to help you when you roll damage. And the question is, it's because you're close range, a phaser blast is difficulty 3.
So here's my argument here. Spend your determination. That'll get you 2 free. Then spend all of our momentum. That rolls 4 dice. And then I'm assisting you, and I have advisor. So we can get rid of at least one complication that'll probably show up at this point. And you also have my assist and the ship assist. So it's sort of setting us up to succeed here.
Okay. Well, fortune does favor the bold. And despite the risks, this is the plan the captain wants to use. So I think I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. So I'm going to burn my determination, as you said. Buy all those dice. So I'm going to roll 4 dice.
Before you roll, though, I also need to say this. The complication range is going to be a 17 to 20 for everyone involved. Because like I said before, and Tillette called out, you guys are just as vulnerable in this as the Concorde. If something goes wrong, you could catch some of the damage.
It's all in the computer, right?
No, this is an actual comic.
I know. I know. I do have the focus of shipboard tactical systems. Does that apply?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. And it's control security, right?
Yeah, control security and the ship assist with security weapons.
Did you say a 17 is a complication?
Yeah, 17 to 20 is a complication.
Now, what happens if a 17 is a success as well?
I think it's still a success, but it's also a complication.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare fringe cases that never really comes up.
Well, there's always another starship. Hyperion A.
No, now we get the I-14.
2 successes, 3, 4, 5.
So that's 5. Here's my assist. That's 7. And then we need the ship.
Here's the complication.
Yeah, you already did roll a complication, that 19, so go ahead and re-roll that 19.
Oh, one of them's a
Nick,
19.
wanna get the ship?
Yeah, I think you volunteered
the
there, Lovecraft.
The 0 is a 19, yeah.
So that's what was it?
Security weapons.
Oh, I see.
Wow, go Hyperion.
Okay, we're at 9, and all right, so we're at 9 with the complication.
So how this is gonna work is roll me. Yeah, this is gonna sting, guys. Sorry, but roll 9 challenge dice for me. It's gonna have the dampening effect. So every effect that you roll, I believe, takes off 2 power.
Is there a button for challenge dice?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just have to enable it under back row.
Yeah, I believe I created the table for everyone already.
Said 9.
Mhm.
Yeah, 9 challenge dice.
I actually would say that we want to give him a threat to reroll anything that's not an effect.
Hmm.
So I'm re-rolling 6.
7.
Oh yeah, 7. Okay.
All right, so we got 8 power off of them by my count.
Yeah, 8 power. 8 power also to you guys as well.
Yeah, we're
They-
probably not going to win this one, but we tried.
They only have 6 power, so that's good. But now, yes,
Yeah, we
you
have
guys
3.
also only have 3. Let's see. And for their action, they're actually just going to move out to medium range. And it's back to you guys.
I'm open to suggestions, both in and out of character.
I think we have no choice but to try to restore power.
Mm-hmm. That was my thought as well.
That's what I thought that we would end up doing as well.
Yeah, so Talek, why don't you go ahead and restore power? Try to get us back up.
Luckily, you have someone that specializes in power systems.
Yes. That's the only plus side here. Can you remind me how to restore power? Because I don't have the thingies
I was just looking it
to
up.
look at it.
Control engineering or daring engineering, difficulty of 2.
And the ship does not assist.
That's fine. That was not fine.
Well, it can succeed at cost, so you could give GM Josh 2 threat to still succeed. But the downside is we only get 1 point of power for succeeding, and to get more than that, we have to give him threat because we don't have any momentum right now. Actually, wait a second. We got, what was that, 9 successes? Does that still translate to momentum?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was
Oh,
what, a
so we have
difficulty
some
of 3.
momentum.
Yeah, we're capped
You're
on
capped.
momentum then. So yeah, I would almost say succeed at cost, give him 2 threat, and then spend 5 of our momentum to give us a total of 9 power.
And then we'll have much more power than them. Hopefully that will stay the same.
Yeah.
I think that's a good plan.
And so it was.
I think the Concord's actually going to repeat the same thing that you guys just did. But I'm not going to give any extra crew dice to them. Let's just see what happens. So
Yeah, they don't need it.
3 successes. So that's 2. That's 1, 2 power for them. Yeah. And it's back to you guys.
Trying to see who hasn't acted right now. I think it's Ash hasn't acted.
Could I, in my role as first officer, try to rally?
I think you could. That would make plenty of sense.
Okay. So that's a presence command.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. I would let you substitute something else if you told me what you were going to do, but the default is presence command.
I have a presence of 10, so that and inspiration as a focus.
Well, yeah, this is perfect. You do have to tell us what is your inspiring message, though.
Okay. Come on, everyone. This is our opportunity to show what this ship is made of. We're going out here exploring the great unknown. Right? Let's show this antiquated hunk of junk what a new Starfleet vessel is capable of doing.
And that is successful. Ash, as you look around, the other members of the bridge look up. They kind of perk up, straighten their backs, give you a glance and return back to their stations. And that gives you 2 momentum.
And now comes probably the attack that we either weather or I get rocks raining on my head.
So we're going to say this is the top of the round. So we're going to reset everybody's turn order. And unfortunately, yes, the Concorde is going to attack you guys. She does have the scan for weakness will apply on this tack. So what that happens is it gives them the piercing 2 quality, and then for extra bonus d20s that I purchase, we'll do an extra challenge dice for them for each d20 that I purchase. So they're going to attack you guys with a phaser shot, and I'm going to use my last threat here to give them an extra dice. Difficulty of 2 for them because you guys are at perfect range.
Okay.
We got 4 successes.
Mm-hmm.
The array did 6 damage. It's got piercing 2.
Yeah, the effects all take away
I
our
believe
resistance.
that's enough to go through all of your resistance. So that's 6 damage, and then I'm just going to put the rest in damage so that it's... Let's see.
Well, I mean, 6
8.
already gets rid of our shields and causes 2 breaches. I don't think you could do any more than that with phasers.
Yeah, it's just 8. Okay, so that is another breach. I think with spread, what I came up with 8 damage. So that causes another 4 damage. So I believe you guys have 2 breaches to 2 systems.
Mm-hmm.
Weapons and weapons. Look at me.
All right, but again, that's something we can restore.
Yeah, you're not really hurt until you have 3 breaches on a system. So another breach on engines, you're gonna start feeling it. Another breach on weapons, but not as bad as it could have been.
This is also the perfect time to get her ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, back to you guys.
I mean, not for morale.
I'm double checking. Is director once a scene? Yes, it's once a scene. Here's what I'm gonna do, and this is another talent that is unique to the Cephalus. I'm actually, and this is hopefully a free action to let me do this, but I'm gonna say, someone get me Captain Harris on the view screen, please.
Captain, opening a channel.
And Ash appearing on the screen is Captain Harrison, and he's got that swagger. He's kind of leaning to the side in his chair, much like Riker did, and he's got a smile. Is Captain calling to surrender?
And again, I'm still sort of standing straight up like a cobra would, and my tail actually begins to rattle with full sound effect. And I don't think this is actually going to affect any rolling. I'm mostly doing it for effect here. But I say, we've got you right where we want you, Mr. Harrison. Would you like to surrender?
Let's do a roll for me. Let's do a, I think it's probably presence command.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be really difficult because he's winning and he knows it. I think this is going to be a difficulty 5 to match his command skill.
Okay. Well, part of the rattle talent is I can gain an additional d20 on task to intimidate or impress upon someone that my argument/viewpoint is the correct one. So that's 3d20 to start with. I will spend my determination that peace is always an option. I am trying to de-escalate the situation. So that's 2 free successes to start with. And then I'll spend the 3 momentum we have. Yeah, I'll spend the 3 momentum we have, so I'm rolling 4 dice.
Sounds good.
All right, for all the marbles. And basically, if I don't get a success, it's a complication.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
that is 7
7?
successes. So
Cool.
2 momentum. And I actually would like to spend that 2 momentum immediately to create the advantage that I actually show that we're about to fire a full power phaser burst. And at this point, it's a Hail Mary, but part of this phaser burst is because we're putting all the power into it, we could overload their power very easily with that shot.
And Harrison, his smile kind of drops, but he still has that swagger, and he says, Captain, I can see you're quite agitated. This was all just an exercise just to test our crews before it became the real thing. I think we've learned all that we need to learn, though. Why don't we call this exercise, why don't we call it over?
So you are surrendering then?
He kind of smiles and he says, I just say we'll allow you to withdraw with honor.
Commander Ash, please note it in the log that Captain Harrison has resigned the exercise at 1300 hours. Noted in the log, see that the crew received medals for their assignment. And Captain Harrison, next time, maybe don't open with torpedoes. They're a terrible tactical option. And then I push a button on my chair and cut him off before he can even say anything. And I say, damn, I really hate that guy. Known him for like 3 minutes. I already hate him.
And moving us back to the bridge, you notice on your screen, Mr. Allen, that the Concorde is actually turning and going to warp. She's starting her mission.
Captain, it looks like the Concorde has gone to warp. I think that's a clear sign that we won this battle.
I'm in full agreement. Well, let's get out there ourselves. Mr. Harlock, if you would be so kind, take us to, let's start there, Warp 7.
And the last scene of the game, we see the Hyperion as she moves away off screen and then jumps to warp. And with that, I'm going to stop the stream and stop the recording.
Bye, stream.